What's going on, boys? This is Cthulhu here. Been working on this Zsader meta for about a week now, and it's been really blowing up on Diablo fans, like over 6,000 views. It's getting recognition from Quinson69 stream. You're the man, Quinn. So I figured, instead of just like leaving it on Diablo fans, I'd give you more of a comprehensive guide on how this build works. So I actually don't have any gems in, so we'll start with that. We'll start with the gear, obviously. You use canes to, you have Rorg in the cube, so you want canes for the EXP. You want Borns for the EXP. You use Captain Crimson's for the extra CDR and the RCR as well as the resist for survival. You use a Hellfire ring, a Zodiac ring. The Zodiac ring is not negotiable, boys. It's just not. If you want to use a Leoric Signet, this is not the build for you, man. Pardon me. Alright, so then we've got S.E. Johann. Now the next slot's it's open. I personally prefer the S.E. Johann because when I'm using like Ramming Steed, it can still proc and help cluster density. But the other choices would be like a Hellfire for a 5th passive, Immunity Necklace, Overwhelming Desire for the additive charm damage. What else do I got? No, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I definitely feel like that. All right, so then you've got this. This is required for the build, since you're using Judgment anyway to give 20% crit to your main damage dealer. You want the Debilitate rune on that as well, because you're basically mitigating damage by about 40% as well with whatever you're using Judgment on. So it's just really, really good. There's no reason to not take it. And then you've got the Gabriel's Van Braces, which synergizes with Johanna's argument. Now, the reason that you want these is on like Rift Guardians or like in low density situations, you still want to be able to spam your hammer and have 100% uptime on it and not have to have any downtime on your proc efficiency. So basically, what this does is it just gives you that. And then you'll have Shield Glare in such a low cooldown that whatever the variance is that you lose, you'll be able to still keep yourself pretty much full the whole time. Obviously, Johanna's argument. Now, this is not the dream roll, so let's not get that confused. Like, the dream roll would be Strength Vit, Attack Speed, 10% CDR, no damage range, because it's an irrelevant stat. You don't need that. That would be the dream. So it's almost there. It's still okay. Like, if you have to choose between Attack Speed and CDR, take the Attack Speed on the weapon, just because of the amount of frames it reduces. And then this piece, also required for Final Witness. What this does is it basically gives you a shitload more wrath generated in density, since you don't have to aim your blind directionally. You can just use it and you'll hit everything within range and get max value on it. This is also pretty close to the dream rolls. In my opinion, I would rather have all resist than chance to block. So it'd be like Strength Vit, all res, CDR, and then like a maxed melee damage reduction, or even ranged. Just really depends. But I mean, I would say maybe ranged, honestly. So then we'll go into gems. Obviously for EXP, you want the red gem in the helm. You want diamonds in the armor. And diamonds in the legs. So, all right, let's go down to the cube. We've got Swift Mount. And the reason that you want the Swift Mount is because, like, in speeds or even in progression, like, your mobility really matters. And you have a dynamic role that you play that I'll discuss in a little bit as a Zsader when running triple DPS based around static charge. And I suppose I should have prefaced this whole guide with that. This build does not work if you're not running with the static charge monk. It just won't work. Because you're literally doing nothing. Except for, like, the 100% CHD, all that stuff. So then Leoric Signet. Or Leoric's Crown, obviously, for the extra EXP. And then Ring of Royal Grandeur, so, you can have all these sets and make it work. Alright, so let's take a look at skills. Now and I will go over what I use and what you can use to variate the build. So the first thing, we'll start with this Blessed Hammer Thunderstruck. Required. Non-negotiable. Has to be this. I've literally, now everyone talks about the 0.83% coefficiency of condemn. I've been getting it on Diablo fans. I've been getting people in game talking to me about it. I've tested it, boys. It's not good. You have to sacrifice too much of your kit to make condemn work. And what people don't realize is if you take condemn in any of these elective slots, you either lose survival or you lose mobility, and you need both because of the role that you play in that. Now, that being said, the other big thing is the fact that condemn does not have an efficiency rate at which you can proc the APM static charge like Blessed Hammer. It doesn't even come close. Now, you could argue you could use both, but you have to gut and muddle this build so much that it becomes less effective than just running this. And it could be a thing later. If somebody shows me something that's more concrete and shows me the APM efficiency of proccing static charge higher than this, then by all means, I'll definitely revise the guide. But I haven't seen anyone. Everyone just talks about it, but nobody's shown me anything. And I sat and tested everything, literally everything, in T10 cow riffs with monks with no weapons on, and just sat there and tested the coefficiency of everything in the Zsader kit, and it just wasn't there. Okay, so moving on. Next skill required. Also required for this build, because you're giving your monk 20% increased crit hit chance. Resolved, and that also works with the Sacred Harness as well. The immobilize effect does have a diminishing return, so do keep that in mind. But it can be used also defensively. If you got arcane mobs that are coming or whatever, like an elite pack you want to skip, you can just chuck that thing out and then hop back on your steed charge, and you'll be able to basically keep that behind and help peel the density that you don't want to fight. It's really good. Next thing, also required for the build. Well, I shouldn't say required. You could actually take Provoke, Too Scared to Run, but I personally wouldn't. Because this is just kind of better because of how much wrath you get and how much wrath you're spending. And Provoke doesn't really have a low enough cooldown unless you're running the two set Seekers of the Light set, which actually that goes into the next guide that I'll be making for making this build work for progression. In which case, yes, you would take Too Scared to Run, because you can also help protect your monk and density by using Provoke, which is excellent, and a mechanic that's been really underrated in groups that you may actually be able to see Crusaders actually fucking tank, which would be awesome. Steed Charge. Now this is the one that has a little bit to do with my Lord Commander. Now, I'm not running Endurance. If I was running Endurance, you don't need Lord Commander, and then this passive slot's completely elective. You could pretty much put whatever the fuck you want in this slot. The problem is there just isn't enough passives to make it really good. I mean, I guess you could say you could take Finery, honestly. And the only reason that you would take the Strength is because of the armor that you would gain from it. That being said, I still don't think it's really effective. Yeah. Yeah, no, there's really nothing. So, if you're not going to take Lord Commander, Long Arm of the Law is really the only choice. But with Zodiac and enough CDR, you don't even need Long Arm of the Law. That's why I don't use it. So, personally, I take Ramming Steed because not only does this allow me to, help kind of herd density, I can, grab a pack and, kind of cluster it all up. And while you're on Steed Charge, by the way, most broken shit in the world, mobs do not aggro you. They just don't. Even if you take, even with Ramming Steed or Nightmare, they still don't aggro you. It's really, really weird. I actually submitted a report to Blizzard about it, because I don't know if that's working as intended, because it literally says nothing in the tooltip that says, mobs won't aggro you, or you know what I mean? But it's a thing now, and I don't think it's so game-breaking that Blizzard's going to be oh my god. But it's definitely something that you should know about that kit. So you can kind of use that to your advantage. But basically, the reason that I take this is because I can kind of control density, and this as well procs S of Johann, which can also help cluster density. So I can move ahead of the pack. So the Barb, if they're running Slaughter, they can stay there and still keep their proc efficiency. Or drag, the more relevant, drag whatever density was behind us that we want to move into the next anchor point. That's basically it. So you're basically alleviating their role of having to scout all the time. And you can do it better. You do it faster. You do it at almost no risk to yourself. And you'll almost always be able to find pylons or what you need in a much more time-effective manner than you would as a Z-Barb, because like they're spinning a lot of plates as it is. So you kind of help alleviate their role and kind of simplify what their job is. Laws of Valor critical, also required, because this is actually the reason why Zsader is meta for 3 ZDPS, 1 static charge monk. It's because of this skill right here, because you're basically giving your monk trifecta between Judgment and this. You're giving him 15% attack speed, 100% critical hit damage, and 20% crit chance with 100% uptime. And for static charge monks who don't know, they only need 1 instance of attack speed on their gear to hit the correct breakpoint for it to work. So it also allows them to min-max a little more around survival as well, which is really good. And then Akarat's Champion. Now for speeds, you could use Hasteful if you really don't feel like you need Prophet, which you probably don't, honestly. You can use Hasteful, that's fine. Or you can just use Prophet if you like having a second NDE. I did try Firestarter, and if the servers supported it, it would be by far superior, because it's like Slaughter, only better, because it's not just when you crit, it's every fucking time. But that's not the case. You'll break games, don't do it. Same thing with legendary gems. Like, don't use Pain Enhancer, don't use Toxin. You will just break games. Alright, that's one thing I missed. Legendary gems. Gogaku Swiftness. Absolutely need this. Esoteric Alteration. Absolutely need this. This, on the other hand, you have a little bit of room to improvise. Personally, since you can't use Toxin and you can't use Pain Enhancer, Mutilation Guard just seemed to be the best one that you could have. Because just you're extra tanky. You know, like, why not? Alright, passives. Fervor. Required. Because the attack speed correlates to hammer speed. Vigilant. Just because extra mitigation. Why not? And Indestructible, obviously to protect your pools when you're EXPing. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the build, as far as like the sheet goes. Personally, I would say that you're going to notice a difference no matter what way you cut it. If you're running with Sonwuko Monks and Speeds, as opposed to when you're running with this, you are going to lose a little bit of time in speed runs. And the reason why is because obviously we're not doing, 150 build plus crits with Exploding Palm and one-shotting density and just one clean go if you're playing around Convention of the Elements. But what you gain out of this is the higher you go in Griffs, the higher this scales. So like it may not be the most time-effective run setup that you're going to have in a 70. You're going to gain like an extra minute or two on your clear, but you're also getting a literally unfathomable amount more of EXP than you were before. So I feel like it's offset. The little amount of time that you gain in a G-Rift is actually offset by the amount of experience that you gain. You do net more per hour, which is I mean the whole fucking go. It's just that's the whole point. And obviously it scales. The higher you go, the better. Like I mean I've done 75, 70 75s with this speeds, and we were doing them in under 8 minutes, and the EXP was just absolutely insane. And this scale's really strong with density. So like the more density you have, just the more you're gonna just do so much work. All right. So that pretty much cuts it for this part of the guide. I'm going to put into the rest of the video a clip of one of the speed 70s that I did last night, and sorry for the quality, by the way. I had to pull it directly off stream. I was going to put another group together and do it, but like if you don't have like people that know how this works and people that have synergy, it just becomes ineffective. And that's another thing too. Like, this build is good, and you can have a great team really well geared and all that, but if you don't have the synergy to make it work, it's not going to be effective. But that's just the game in general, so I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, just take the time, learn your role, learn how you can be beneficial to the group and not just this. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll put the annotations on YouTube and my Paradox. She's just another lost soul. I'm not to be mine again. We will receive her, and it's beyond your control. You ever meet again? Heaven, from heaven, to heaven ended on home. As a little child, she was taken and then forsaken. You will remember it all, and it blew your mind again. over some of the commentary and update. Now this needs to be a little bit revised. This because like the toxin, the infectious toxin, is creating a lot of lag. You do not want to use it, and that'll apply to the later comments. So we're gonna look at this guy. He's talking about dual wield monk, blah 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 blah. He's talking about strong arms and condemns, but yeah, like you don't want to. Okay, first off, we don't use condemn. Just because it has a higher efficiency rate doesn't mean it works. And then this, the Blade of Prophecy and Fear's Wrath, you're pretty much just killing the hammer setup at that point. And it becomes ineffective. And then if you don't have Swift Mount, if you run Endurance and have enough CDR and don't run Swift Mount, you could get away with Blade of Prophecy in the queue. But it just, Condemn does not have a high enough APM to be more efficient than hammers. Okay, so the next thing is Zeal Omni Slash. Tried that as well. Same problem. Not a high enough proc efficiency to proc static charge more APM than hammers. So we're going to talk about... Okay, so gems. Obviously, diamonds, EXP, Helm, and Helm. I looked at this build, and what you're forgetting is your build has no EXP gear. I'll demonstrate right here. We'll take a look what he has. Yeah, he's using Talrasha, Ashera, APDs. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand what the point of your build is, because you're literally not giving any more experience than just the Canes. And if you're not using Borns, then you're losing XP. So, I mean, like, I don't personally see how you would out-proc what I'm using. Personally. And you're dropping Steed, you're taking Condemn with Eternal and then Zeal Slash. Like, it's just so muddled. Like, if you Slash, you're losing proc efficiency. If you use Condemn, you're losing proc efficiency. Your most effective proc efficient rate is Blessed Hammer. So any other globals that you use anything else, you're basically just cutting your procs in half. So that should dispel that. Now, I'm not saying it's not a bad build, but I think you should sit and develop it more. So this is actually really good, and we're going to talk about this right now, is why you would use Shield Glare instead of Provoke with Too Scared to Run. Better for speeds, not better for prog. Provoke is a billion times better. I agree. And because you'd be running Seeker's 2-set. Alright, and then this guy is talking about the lag. Now, this is a good chance for me to kind of preface... I'm on my monk right now, sorry. To preface some stuff about lag. So we're going to talk about the two no-nos. No pain enhancer, no toxin. For gems, nobody should be using any of those. It will create lag problems. 2, server peak time. If you're playing on peak times, it's a lot easier to lag than it is any other time. 3, Dust Devils on barbs. That crashes the game. Lane density. Just don't do it. Don't have your barb run it. If they're running it, tell them to use Hurricane or Blood Funnel. Just not run that. Slaughter in density can create some lag, but it's usually okay. But Slaughter does create lag. Number 4, the big one. And I spaced it. Wow. All right. Well, I mean, and obviously, like, you don't want to have, like, the massive amount of on-screen density when you're doing progression. Like, you kind of want to wean into it. But that's static charge itself. And that's another thing. Static charge itself does that. Oh, yeah. And the big thing is area damage. You literally want to have no fucking points into area damage at all. Like, I don't even know why I had him on this monk. Literally never put any points in area damage on any spec. Because it's a useless stat, A. And B, all it does is just give the game more calculations in the action packet. And that's what creates the lag, because it's trying to sort through packets. So basically, if you do those things, you can mitigate most of your lag. And that should answer that. Let's see if I missed anything else. Yes, we do. You don't go without a heal monk on your team. You always have a heal monk. It's meta this season. You don't... Yeah. So stat priority, I guess I didn't really cover that, would be you want CDR, every slot you can get it. Attack speed, secondly. than Vit, Strength, Resistances. Survival stats. Survival stats are key. If you have to choose a secondary, like a third stat on like Helmet or Bracers that's effective for you, you can either go with Life on Hit, which I would recommend, or you can go with LPS, which is also viable. Life on Hit's good because of the amount of attacks that you're doing per second, that you're actually going to be able to sustain yourself when you're hurting. That being said, like, you should never be scouting when your group's planted. You should never peel off because you need to be in the group proccing static charge as much as you can. You only scout when transitioning. That's all. Or when density wanes and they're going to start pulling, you just pull ahead of your group. And it's subtle. Like, I make that mistake in this video, in the video we're about to watch too. So, like, I mean, I'm not, just because I made the meta doesn't mean I'm playing it perfectly either, Like, I'm still learning how to really maximize its efficiency as well. So let's keep that in mind. Otherwise, yeah, that should pretty much answer any questions that you have. Feel free to leave comments in the video if you have any more. All right, boys, thanks. Yes. The other thing, I keep forgetting. Like, I know there's so many segments in this video. Sorry about that. The other big thing that I want to cover is I've played with a lot of groups, and the big thing people are talking about is, well, I feel like Sanwuko's Monk is faster. Like, it is faster in lower glyphs to run with the Sanwuko Monk because you get more value on density with Exploding Palm one-shotting it. It is more effective. The thing with this build that it does that Sanwuko's doesn't is you're going to gain like an extra minute sometimes if you don't have good density. Sometimes you can match Sanwuko's speed. Sometimes you can. Just depends on the rift. You get punished more from a lack of density with this than you do with Sanwuko Monk. But the thing is that that's offset by the extra amount of experience that you give to the party. So that's one thing that you have to keep in mind. The other thing that everybody needs to keep in mind is that this build scales better the higher you go, because Sanwuko Monk becomes less and less effective, whereas this gets more and more and more effective because we net more damage than a Sanwuko Monk does later, because they can't just like instantly blow up whites in one shot in like a 78 or an 80, whereas we're always doing damage. So we can't, like, hypothetically, this build could go rank 1. It could, with the right setup and the right group and no lag, or minimal lag. But we have to see where the metagame takes us with that. So that being said, Sanwuko Monk is definitely viable. But that's the biggest thing. That was the biggest thing behind this build that I really wanted to cover and reiterate, is that this might be a game changer in force progression, but I don't think that this build will be the most superior build that you can get for experience and speeds. But the whole point of this experience build that I've made, I know I'm not on that Zsader right now, is the fact that it gives Crusader viability in 4-player, basically giving people more options of what they want to play. So please keep that in mind, and this is not, like I said, this is not the final build. Like, this is final for me right now until I see something that's better than what I have. So please feel free to challenge it, test it, try different stuff. Just do anything. Let's try to make this build better. Let's try to put Crusaders on the map in 4-player. This can push rank 1. This is like the ideal setup. But we have to tune it to make sure it can go there. Okay, thanks guys.